Welcome back, everyone. Today we're taking a close look at 5 rare Lincoln Wheat Pennies that could be worth big money. These historic United States 1-cent coins may look like ordinary old pennies, but certain examples can become highly desirable to collectors because of their date, mint mark, unusual varieties, minting errors, rarity, and overall condition. In this video, we'll reveal the important details you should look for and discuss the current 2026 market value of these 5 wheat pennies. We'll also explain why 2 coins from the same year can have completely different values depending on their condition, variety, and authenticity. So before you spend an old wheat penny, check it carefully. Look closely at the date, mint mark, lettering, design details, and condition. You never know when an ordinary-looking coin could turn out to be a valuable collector piece. Let's begin our countdown of the top 5 rare Lincoln Wheat Pennies, worth big money. Let's get started. First up, the 1917 issue belongs to the famous Lincoln Wheat Cent series, designed by Victor David Brenner. PCGS records a Philadelphia mintage of 196,429,785 pieces, meaning the date itself is not extremely rare. However, the value of individual coins can vary dramatically depending on condition, color, surface quality, and varieties. The coin was produced during a fascinating period in American history, when the United States was entering World War I. Today, collectors appreciate these cents not only as old coins, but also as historical objects that survived from the early 20th century. The 1917 wheat penny carries Abraham Lincoln's portrait on the obverse, with the date 1917 positioned in front of his chest. On the reverse are the 2 wheat stalks that gave the series its popular name, along with 1 cent, United States of America, and EPLURBUSUNUM. The coin measures approximately 19 millimeters, weighs about 3.11 grams, and was made from an alloy of approximately 95% copper with tin and zinc. Its edge is plain. One important feature is the absence of a mint mark. On a Philadelphia 1917 cent, no mint letter is exactly what you should expect. A D would indicate Denver and an S would indicate San Francisco, while the Philadelphia issue carries no mint mark. Therefore, don't automatically assume that a missing mint mark is an error. The no mint mark version is the normal Philadelphia variety. When determining the value of a 1917 wheat penny, condition is extremely important. Many examples circulated for decades, so they can show heavy wear on Lincoln's hair, cheek, jaw, and coat, while the wheat ears and lettering on the reverse may also become worn. A coin in good or fine condition generally has considerably less value than a sharply detailed mint state example. Collectors also pay attention to the copper color of the coin. Certified examples can be designated brown, or red, and coins retaining attractive original red color can be particularly desirable. PCGS reports an auction record of $1,125 for a 1917 brown cent graded MS66BN, demonstrating how a high-grade example can be worth substantially more than an ordinary circulated coin. So, what could a 1917 no-mint mark wheat penny be worth today? The answer depends heavily on grade. Older published PCGS guide data lists a 1917 Philadelphia cent around $0.10, $0.25 in good, $0.25, $0.50 in fine, approximately $3.50 in extremely fine, and $15 and up in uncirculated examples. These are guide figures rather than guaranteed selling prices, and today's actual market can be different depending on the specific coin and buyer demand. Once a coin reaches very high certified grades, prices can move into the hundreds or thousands of dollars. For example, PCGS records a $1,293 auction result for an MS66 red-brown example, and $1,125 for an MS66 brown example. This shows why you should never value an old penny simply by its age. One of the most exciting possibilities with a 1917 Philadelphia wheat penny is a doubled die obverse variety. This is different from ordinary damage or machine doubling because the design was created with a doubled impression during the die-making process. PCGS identifies 1917 doubled die obverse varieties with doubling particularly associated with the date and motto. These varieties can be worth dramatically more than normal examples when authentic and in strong condition. PCGS records an auction result of $8,400 for a 1917 double die obverse brown example, graded MS63BN, while another F-101 red-brown example reached $14,950 in MS65RB. These results demonstrate how an important variety can transform the value of an otherwise ordinary-looking 1917 cent. The most extraordinary examples can bring even larger amounts. PCGS records a $38,813 auction result for a 1917 Philadelphia Lincoln cent graded MS68 red, showing how exceptional preservation and original color can create a major premium. Even more impressive are examples of the recognized double die obverse variety. PCGS records an auction result of $120,000 for a 1917 DDO F-100 and one red example graded MS67 plus RD, while another F-100 and one red example reached $84,000 in MS67 RD. These are exceptional auction results and should not be interpreted as the normal value of a 1917 wheat penny. Most old 1917 cents will not come anywhere close to these amounts. The important lesson is that extremely high prices generally belong to rare varieties and extraordinary certified grades, not ordinary worn coins. If you discover a 1917 wheat penny with no mint mark, examine it carefully before deciding what it is worth. First, confirm the date and make sure the final digit really is a 7. Next, inspect the reverse to confirm that there is no D or S mint mark. Then look closely at the date and motto for possible doubling, especially if the coin has unusually strong details. Examine Lincoln's portrait for signs of wear and check the wheat stalks on the reverse. Also look for scratches, corrosion, stains, cleaning, or artificial polishing. Do not clean the coin, because cleaning can damage the original surface and reduce collector appeal. If the coin appears to be in unusually high grade or you believe it has a genuine double die feature, professional authentication and grading may be worthwhile. In conclusion, a 1917 Lincoln Wheat Penny with no mint mark is an authentic Philadelphia issue and an important survivor from the early years of the Lincoln Cent series. Its large original mintage means that simply being from 1917 does not guarantee a huge price. However, condition, original color, strong detail, and especially recognized varieties can make a major difference. Ordinary circulated examples may be worth only a small amount above face value, while high-grade certified examples can reach hundreds or thousands of dollars. Exceptional varieties can bring dramatically higher auction prices, as documented by professional grading records. So if you have a 1917 wheat penny, don't throw it aside simply because it looks old or worn. Check the date, mint mark area, condition, surfaces, and possible double die characteristics. Most importantly, remember that market values change and auction records represent specific coins, not guaranteed prices for every example. Your 1917 penny could be a modest collectible, or if it has exceptional grade or a genuine rare variety, it could be one of the more interesting coins in your collection. Next up, the 1948 Lincoln Wheat Penny is a classic United States 1-cent coin from the post-World War II era. It was produced at the Philadelphia Mint, which is why a normal 1948 Philadelphia cent has no mint mark beneath the date. The Philadelphia Mint produced approximately 317,570,000 examples in 1948, so the date itself is not considered an extremely rare issue. However, these coins are still popular with collectors because they belong to the historic Lincoln Wheat Cent series, designed by Victor David Brenner. The series began in 1909 and remained in production until 1958, making the 1948 penny an important part of one of America's longest-running coin designs. When you look at a 1948 wheat penny and notice there is no letter below the date, don't automatically think the coin has a minting error. For this particular coin, the absence of a mint mark is completely normal because it identifies the Philadelphia Mint. In 1948, cents were also produced at Denver and San Francisco, and those coins carried their respective D and S mint marks. The Philadelphia version is therefore commonly identified by collectors as the 1948 P, even though the P does not actually appear on the coin. This small detail is one of the first things you should check when identifying an old wheat penny. The obverse of the 1948 Lincoln Wheat Penny shows the famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing right. Around his portrait are the inscriptions "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1948. The reverse contains the two wheat ears that gave the coin its popular nickname, Wheat Penny. Between the wheat ears are the words 1 cent and United States of America, with EPLURBUSUNUM above. The coin is approximately 19 millimeters wide and weighs about 3.11 grams. It was made from a bronze composition containing about 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. These original specifications help collectors distinguish an authentic example from damaged altered, or counterfeit pieces. If your 1948 no-mint mark wheat penny is described as being in fine condition, it means the coin has experienced noticeable circulation, but still retains a substantial amount of its original design detail. Lincoln's hair, cheek, coat, and other high points will show wear, while the major lettering and date should remain clearly readable. On the reverse, the wheat ears and inscriptions should still be visible, although some of the finer details will have softened because of circulation. Fine condition is collectible, but it is important to understand that a normal fine 1948 Philadelphia penny is not automatically worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. Current reference values place a 1948 Philadelphia cent around $0.24 in fine condition, although actual selling prices can vary depending on the coin and the marketplace. Now let's talk about the part that many collectors are most interested in, the current market value. Based on published 2026 reference information, a regular 1948 Philadelphia wheat penny can be worth only a modest amount in circulated grades. One current guide lists approximately $0.06 in very good, $0.12 in fine, $0.24 in very fine, $0.43 in extremely fine, $1.05 in about uncirculated, and $2.50 in MS63. These figures show an important difference between a normal circulated coin and a high-grade example. A 1948 penny in fine condition should therefore not be advertised as automatically worth $500 or $1,000. However, exceptional examples with very high grades, attractive original color, or unusual characteristics can bring much stronger prices. The biggest opportunity for a 1948 wheat penny comes from its condition and preservation. Millions of these coins were originally produced, but far fewer survived in outstanding condition with clean surfaces, sharp details, and attractive original color. Collectors pay particular attention to coins that remain bright red or reddish in high grades rather than heavily worn brown examples. You should also examine the coin for possible doubling, unusual die characteristics, cracks, striking problems, or other genuine mint-made errors. However, not every scratch, stain, damaged letter, or unusual-looking surface is an error. Many apparent errors are simply the result of circulation damage or environmental exposure. If a 1948 penny appears exceptionally unusual or valuable, professional authentication and grading can be worthwhile before making any major value claim. This is where coin collecting becomes especially interesting. A normal 1948 no-mint mark penny in fine condition is generally a low-value collectible, but the same date can become considerably more valuable when the grade becomes exceptionally high. Current reference data shows that uncirculated examples can be worth more than ordinary circulated pieces, with the guide listing about $1.05 for MS60 and $2.50 for MS63, while exceptional specimens can potentially command substantially more depending on certification, color, quality, and buyer demand. Therefore, if someone tells you that every 1948 wheat penny is worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, be cautious. The high-value examples are exceptions, not the normal market value. The most important question is not simply, is it a 1948, but rather what grade is it, what is its surface quality, and does it have a genuine rare characteristic? So, if you have a 1948 Lincoln Wheat Penny with no mint mark in fine condition, you have a genuine piece of American numismatic history, but its realistic value is normally much more modest than sensational online claims suggest. The no mint mark feature tells us that it was made at Philadelphia, and the coin's 1948 date places it during the final decade of the famous wheat cent series. Check Lincoln's portrait, the date, the wheat ears, lettering, surfaces, and overall condition carefully. Most importantly, do not clean or polish the coin, because cleaning can damage its collectible surfaces and reduce its desirability. If your example looks unusually sharp, has excellent original color, appears nearly uncirculated, or shows a possible mint error, then it may deserve closer examination. Remember that market values change, and actual prices depend on grade, authenticity, color, surface quality, certification, rarity, and collector demand. The 1948 wheat penny may not be a fortune in ordinary fine condition, but finding a truly exceptional example is exactly what makes searching old coins so exciting. Next up, the 1949 Lincoln Wheat Penny is an interesting piece of United States coinage, and one that many collectors enjoy searching for today. This coin was produced at the Denver Mint, which is identified by the small d mint mark beneath the date on the obverse. The 1949 belongs to the famous Lincoln Wheat Cent series, which was introduced in 1909 and continued through 1958. The obverse shows Abraham Lincoln, while the reverse features the two wheat ears that gave the series its popular name. By 1949, the wheat penny had already been in circulation for 4 decades and had become a familiar part of everyday American commerce. Because the coin is now more than 75 years old, collectors are naturally interested in finding examples that survived in unusually attractive condition. However, age alone does not make every 1949 penny rare or extremely valuable. The condition, originality, color, surface quality, and grade are much more important when determining market value. The most important identifying feature of this particular coin is the D mint mark. When you turn your attention to the area underneath the 1949 date, you should look for a small letter D. That letter tells collectors that the coin was struck at the Denver Mint rather than Philadelphia or San Francisco. The 1949 D is a bronze Lincoln cent with a standard weight of about 3.11 grams and a diameter of about 19 millimeters. The design was created by Victor David Brenner, whose Lincoln portrait became one of the most recognizable designs in American coinage. The reverse contains 1 cent and United States of America, surrounded by the 2 wheat stalks. These basic details are important when examining a rough example, because heavy wear, dirt, discoloration, and corrosion can sometimes make the mint mark or other lettering difficult to identify. A careful inspection under good lighting is therefore the first step before trying to determine the coin's value. If your 1949 wheat penny is in rough condition, it may have noticeable wear from decades of circulation. Lincoln's cheek hair, jaw, and coat may appear worn, while the wheat stalks on the reverse can lose some of their finer details. You may also see scratches, dark toning, stains, small marks, or environmental damage. These problems can significantly affect the value compared with a coin that has remained bright and well preserved. Collectors generally prefer coins with original surfaces rather than pieces that have been harshly cleaned. Cleaning an old copper coin can leave unnatural scratches or a bright, damaged appearance and may actually reduce its desirability. Still, a rough coin should never be dismissed immediately. You should first confirm the date and mint mark, and then inspect the entire coin for anything unusual. A coin can have significant wear and still be collectible, especially when it has an interesting history or a characteristic that deserves further investigation. When examining a 1949 Lincoln Wheat Penny, several details deserve attention. Start with the 1949 date and D mint mark, then examine Lincoln's portrait for signs of unusual doubling or other possible varieties. On the reverse, carefully inspect the wheat ears, lettering, and central details. Also look at the rims and edges for damage. The color of the copper can provide another important clue about preservation. Coins may appear brown, reddish-brown, or retain more original red color, and high-grade examples with attractive original color can be considerably more desirable. Surface marks are also important because a coin with fewer scratches and contact marks can receive a much better grade. Remember that not every strange-looking mark is a valuable mint error. Damage that happened after the coin left the mint is common, especially on a coin that's circulated for decades. For that reason, suspected errors or varieties should be compared with reliable references or examined by a qualified professional before assigning a major premium. The current market value of a 1949 wheat penny in 2026 depends heavily on its condition. A rough, heavily circulated example is generally not comparable to a high-grade certified coin. In ordinary circulated grades, the coin may bring only a modest premium, while attractive uncirculated examples can be worth considerably more. The major price increases generally occur when the coin reaches higher mint state grades and retains strong original surfaces and desirable color. Professional auction records demonstrate how dramatically condition can influence wheat cent prices. For example, certified high-grade Lincoln wheat cents from other dates have brought hundreds or thousands of dollars when exceptional preservation makes them condition rarities. Therefore, when discussing the 1949 D, it is reasonable to say that hundreds of dollars or even more can be possible for exceptional examples, but that does not mean every rough 1949 D is worth that amount. Collectors should always distinguish between an ordinary circulated coin and a professionally graded, high-quality specimen. One of the most fascinating parts of collecting Lincoln Wheat Pennies is the difference between a normal circulated example and an exceptional mint state coin. Imagine two 1949 pennies sitting side by side. One may be dark, scratched, heavily worn, and missing much of the original detail. The other may still show strong luster, sharp wheat ears, clear lettering, and attractive original copper color. Even though both coins have exactly the same date and mint mark, collectors may value them very differently. This is because high-grade coins are much harder to find than ordinary circulated examples. Professional grading can also provide buyers with confidence about the coin's condition and authenticity. A rough 1949 should therefore be presented realistically. It is an old collectible coin, but its condition may limit its monetary value. On the other hand, if you discover an example that appears unusually sharp and well-preserved, it becomes much more interesting and may deserve professional evaluation. This is where the search becomes exciting. A 1949 wheat penny can potentially reach much higher values in exceptional grades, but collectors should avoid assuming that every coin is a jackpot. The large prices often reported online are usually associated with specific high-grade, certified, rare condition, or otherwise exceptional coins. Auction records for Lincoln Wheat cents show that outstanding examples can bring thousands of dollars, while ordinary circulated examples can remain inexpensive. So if your 1949 is rough, heavily circulated, scratched, or damaged, it should not automatically be valued at $1,000 or more. However, if you happen to find one with unusually strong detail, original surfaces, attractive color, and very little evidence of circulation, that is when you should take a closer look. The key is condition rarity, not simply age. A coin that survived more than 7 decades in exceptional condition can be much more interesting to serious collectors than a coin of the same date that spent decades in circulation. The 1949 Lincoln Wheat Penny is a fascinating reminder that even a 1-cent coin can preserve a piece of American history. Its Denver D mint mark, classic Lincoln portrait, wheatear reverse, bronze composition, and age make it an enjoyable coin to search for. If your example is in rough condition, don't assume that it is automatically worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. Instead, carefully identify the date and mint mark, inspect the surfaces, look for unusual characteristics, and compare the coin with reliable market information. If it appears exceptionally well preserved or contains a possible mint-made variety, professional evaluation may be worthwhile. The most important lesson is that the 1949 is not valuable simply because it is old. Its real potential comes from condition, originality, eye appeal, and collector demand. So before you spend, discard, or sell an old wheat penny, take a few moments to examine it carefully. You may discover that the small copper coin in your collection has a story and collectible value far beyond its original 1-cent face value. Next up, the 1950 Lincoln Wheat Penny is one of those classic United States coins that can look ordinary at first glance, but becomes much more interesting when you examine its date, minting details, condition, and color. If you have a 1950 wheat penny with no mint mark, you are looking at a coin struck at the Philadelphia Mint, because Philadelphia cents of this era did not carry a mint mark. In 1950, Philadelphia produced approximately 272.6 million Lincoln Wheat cents, making this coin an important part of the post-World War II Lincoln cent series. The coin was still using Victor David Brenner's famous Lincoln design, which had first appeared in 1909, while the wheat reverse remained in production until 1958. The 1950 issue therefore belongs to the final decade of the historic wheat penny era. For collectors today, the most important point is that a 1950 no-mint mark penny is not automatically rare simply because it is 76 years old. Millions were produced, and many circulated for decades. However, individual examples can become much more desirable when they have unusually strong detail, attractive original color, minimal marks, or exceptional certified grades. This is where the difference between an ordinary old penny and a valuable collectible becomes extremely important. The 1950 Lincoln Wheat Penny carries the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, facing right, with the inscriptions Liberty, in God we trust, and the date 1950 surrounding his portrait. On the reverse are the 2 wheat ears that gave the coin its popular name, with 1 cent and United States of America prominently displayed. Beneath the denomination is the Latin phrase EPLURBUSUNUM, meaning out of many, one. The design was created by Victor David Brenner and became one of the longest-running and most recognizable coin designs in American history. The 1950 cent was struck from the traditional bronze composition of approximately 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, with a diameter of about 19 millimeters and a weight of approximately 3.11 grams. One particularly interesting feature of your coin is the absence of a mint mark. Collectors should not assume that a missing letter means an error. On a normal 1950 Philadelphia cent, no mint mark is exactly what should be present. The Denver issue has a D, and the San Francisco issue has an S, While the Philadelphia issue carries no mint letter, that simple detail is one of the first things collectors check when identifying a 1950 wheat penny. Now let's talk about the word dusty or rough condition, because this is extremely important when estimating the value of a 1950 wheat penny. A coin that has been exposed to dirt, dust, moisture, oxidation, or improper storage can develop brown, dark, or uneven surfaces. Collectors generally separate Lincoln cents into color categories such as brown, and red, particularly for higher-grade coins. A heavily circulated and dusty 1950 penny will normally be worth far less than a sharply preserved example with attractive original surfaces. Current price references show that ordinary circulated 1950 Philadelphia wheat cents can be worth only a small premium over face value, while higher-grade uncirculated examples can command significantly more. One current value guide lists examples around $0.06 in average condition, with uncirculated examples around $1.05 to $2.50 or more, depending on grade and characteristics. This means you should be careful with sensational claims that every dusty 1950 penny is worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. A worn coin with scratches, corrosion, heavy discoloration, or environmental damage usually does not reach those levels. The big money is generally reserved for exceptional preservation, rare varieties, errors, or very high certified grades. No mint mark penny special. Although the 1950 Philadelphia wheat penny had a large mintage, the coin can become genuinely valuable when its condition reaches an extraordinary level. The most important feature to inspect is the amount of original detail remaining on Lincoln's portrait. Look closely at Lincoln's hair, ear, cheek, jawline, coat, and the lettering. On the reverse, examine the wheat stalks and the individual lines within the wheat ears. Strong separation and crisp detail can indicate that the coin experienced relatively little wear. Collectors also pay close attention to the surfaces. A coin with large scratches, cleaning marks, stains, corrosion, or dark environmental damage will generally be less desirable than a coin with smooth, original surfaces. Another major factor is original mint color. A brilliant red Lincoln cent that has survived with very little oxidation can be dramatically more valuable than an ordinary brown circulated example. PCGS records a remarkable $10,575 auction result for a 1950 Philadelphia Lincoln cent graded MS67 plus red, sold in 2020. That sale demonstrates why condition matters so much. The high value did not come simply from the year 1950 or the absence of a mint mark, but from an exceptionally high-grade example with outstanding preservation and original red color. Prices can reach hundreds or thousands when discussing the 2026 market. It is essential to understand that there is no single value for every 1950 no-mint mark wheat penny. The value changes dramatically according to grade, color designation, eye appeal, originality, certification, and whether the coin has an unusual error or variety. For a dusty, heavily circulated example, the realistic value may be only a few cents to perhaps a modest collector premium. For a nicer circulated example with stronger detail, the value can rise into the cents or dollar range. Uncirculated coins can move into several dollars, tens of dollars, or much more depending on grade and color. For example, one current pricing reference lists 1950 Philadelphia red examples at approximately $4 in MS63, $9 in MS64, $21 in MS65, $86 in MS66, and $1,062 in MS67, illustrating how rapidly the price can increase at the highest grades. Another major reference records the $10,575 auction result for an MS67 plus red example. So, while a normal dusty 1950 penny should not automatically be described as a $1,000 coin, an exceptionally preserved specimen can indeed enter the hundreds or thousands of dollars. This distinction is critical for anyone creating educational coin content or checking an old penny found in a collection. If you have a 1950 wheat penny with no mint mark, start your examination carefully and do not clean the coin. Cleaning can permanently damage the natural surface and may reduce collector value. Instead, use good lighting and, if necessary, a simple magnifying glass. First, confirm the date is actually 1950 and inspect the area beneath the date to make sure there is no mint mark. Next, study Lincoln's portrait and look for the amount of detail remaining in his hair, ear, cheek, and coat. Then turn the coin over and examine the wheat reverse. Look for sharp wheat lines, clear lettering, and strong separation in the design. After that, inspect the surface for scratches, dents, corrosion, unusual discoloration, or signs that the coin has been polished. Weight can also be useful as a basic identification check because the standard bronze cent weighs about 3.11 grams, although normal wear and measurement differences should be considered. If the coin appears unusually well preserved, professional grading may become worth considering. A certified grade from a respected grading service can provide an objective assessment and can be especially useful when the potential value is high difference between old and rare. One of the biggest lessons from the 1950 Lincoln Wheat Penny is that age alone does not determine rarity. The Philadelphia Mint struck more than 272 million examples in 1950, so simply finding a penny that is 76 years old does not mean you have discovered a fortune. Instead, collectors search for exceptional condition, strong original color, unusual errors, varieties, and coins that survived with remarkable preservation. If your dusty coin has an obvious minting anomaly, it should be examined carefully rather than immediately dismissed. Possible areas of interest can include unusual doubling, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, die-related abnormalities, or other genuine mint errors. However, damage that happened after the coin left the mint, such as scratches, corrosion, chemical staining, or machine damage, is not normally considered a valuable mint error. This distinction is extremely important because many damaged old pennies are mistakenly advertised online as rare error coins. A genuine high-value example should ideally be compared with authenticated examples or evaluated by a professional. For ordinary circulated 1950 no-mint mark cents, current references generally show modest values, while the exceptional high-grade population is where the dramatic prices appear. So if you have a 1950 United States Lincoln Wheat Penny with no mint mark in dusty condition, should you immediately expect hundreds or thousands of dollars? The honest answer is probably not, unless the coin contains an important variety or error or turns out to be far better preserved than it first appears. The no mint mark designation correctly identifies it as a Philadelphia issue, and its large mintage means ordinary examples are not particularly scarce. But that does not make the coin uninteresting. The 1950 cent represents an important period in American history, carries the classic wheat reverse, contains the traditional bronze composition, and belongs to the final years of one of America's most beloved coin designs. Exceptional examples prove that the right combination of grade, color, preservation, and rarity can transform a 1-cent coin into a valuable collectible. PCGS recorded $10,575 sale for an MS67 plus red 1950 Philadelphia cent is a powerful example of how extraordinary condition can create a major premium. Therefore, before spending or selling your old 1950 wheat penny, examine it carefully, avoid cleaning it, check the date and mint mark area, study both sides for unusual characteristics, and compare its condition with reliable price references. Your dusty penny may be an ordinary collectible worth a small amount, or if it has exceptional preservation or a genuine rare characteristic, it could be considerably more valuable. And that is exactly why checking old wheat pennies can be so exciting. Sometimes the smallest coins can carry the biggest stories. Next up, the 1950-60 Lincoln Wheat Penny is one of the final coins from the famous Lincoln Wheat Cent series, which began in 1909 and continued until 1958. The D mint mark tells us that this particular coin was produced at the Denver Mint. In 1956, Denver struck approximately 1,098,201,100 Lincoln cents, so the date itself is not considered rare. However, the real story begins when condition enters the picture. After nearly 70 years, many examples have been heavily circulated, scratched, darkened, or damaged. Coins that escape circulation and remain in genuine mint state condition can be much more desirable. The 1950-60 is especially interesting because it belongs to the final years of the wheat penny era, just before the famous wheat reverse was replaced by the Lincoln Memorial design in 1959. For collectors, this makes the coin an attractive piece of American history and an example of the last generation of the classic wheat cent. The 1950-60 features Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, "Within God we trust, liberty," and the date 1956 surrounding his portrait. The small D mint mark appears below the date area and identifies Denver as the manufacturing facility. On the reverse are the two wheat ears surrounding 1 cent and United States of America, with EPLURBUSUNUM above them. The coin is approximately 19 millimeters in diameter, weighs about 3.11 grams, and was made from a traditional bronze composition of approximately 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. One of the most important features for collectors is the coin's color. A preserved copper cent can retain attractive reddish coloration, while older circulated examples often become brown. Professional grading can classify these coins as brown, red-brown, or red, and that designation can have a major effect on market value. If your 1950-60 has bright natural luster, sharp details, and very few marks, it deserves closer inspection. The word uncirculated can make a major difference, but it does not automatically mean that a 1950-60 wheat penny is worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. An uncirculated coin has avoided normal circulation wear, but coins in mint state can still have different levels of preservation. A lower-grade mint state coin may have numerous contact marks, while a premium high-grade specimen can have remarkably clean surfaces and strong original luster. Current USA coin book references list ordinary 1950-60 examples around $0.36 in MS-60 and $1.24 in MS-63, showing that many uncirculated examples remain relatively affordable. The situation becomes very different at the highest grades, especially for coins retaining attractive original red color. This is why collectors should not simply search for the highest price and assume their coin has the same value. The exact grade, color, surface quality, and certification all matter. If your coin appears uncirculated, examine Lincoln's cheek and jaw, the open fields, the date, and the wheat ears for contact marks or signs of wear. The 1950-60 also has several recognized varieties that can make certain examples more interesting to collectors. Professional references list repunched mint mark varieties, including different 1950-60/D varieties. These varieties occurred during the coin production process and are different from damage that happened after the coin left the mint. If you notice unusual shapes or traces around the D, do not immediately assume that you have a valuable variety. Lighting, scratches, corrosion, and other surface problems can create confusing appearances. A genuine variety should be compared with established variety references or examined by an experienced numismatist. The same rule applies to unusual doubling on the date or lettering. If a 1950-60 has both an interesting variety and excellent uncirculated preservation, its collector appeal can increase considerably. This is one reason experienced collectors inspect even common-date wheat pennies carefully instead of automatically dismissing them. So, how much can a 1950-60 wheat penny actually be worth today? The answer ranges widely depending on grade and designation. Current references updated in 2026 place ordinary circulated examples at only a few cents, while typical uncirculated examples can range from less than $1 to a few dollars. APMEX currently lists examples in red designation around $3 at uncirculated, $4 at MS-63, $6 at MS-64, $15 at MS-65, $29 at MS-66, and about $377 at MS-67. These figures demonstrate how strongly grade can affect the value, but there is an important distinction between price guide estimates, retail prices, asking prices, and actual completed auction sales. For example, Graysheet records a recent 1950-60 MS-67 red sale at $201 in July 2026, while other high-grade examples have sold for different amounts. Therefore, if you have an ordinary uncirculated 1950-60, do not automatically expect hundreds of dollars. The higher values belong primarily to exceptional coins with strong grades, attractive color, excellent surfaces, recognized varieties, or unusual errors. This is where the 1950-60 becomes especially fascinating. Although more than 1 billion were originally struck, the number of coins that survive in extraordinary condition is much smaller. Collectors competing for the finest examples can pay significant premiums. PCGS records an auction record of $18,000 for a 1950-60 MS-67 Plus Red, sold by Heritage Auctions on December 18, 2022. That is an extraordinary result, and should not be confused with the normal value of a 1950-60 penny. It demonstrates the concept of condition rarity. A coin can have a huge original mintage, but still become extremely desirable when it reaches an exceptional grade. Current Graysheet information also shows collectors paying premiums for very high-grade MS-67 or better pieces. This is why a YouTube viewer who discovers a beautiful 1950-60 should look beyond the date. The coin's grade, color, surface preservation, variety, and certification are all important. A coin worth a small amount in circulated condition can occupy a completely different market category when professionally certified at an extraordinary grade. If you have a 1950-60 wheat penny that appears uncirculated, Do not clean it or polish it before determining its value. First, confirm that the date is clearly 1956 and that the mint mark is a genuine D. Next, inspect Lincoln's portrait under good lighting and look for wear, scratches, stains, carbon spots, and contact marks. Then examine the reverse, especially the wheat ears and the open areas around the lettering. Check the coin's color carefully because naturally preserved red examples can be more desirable than brown examples. If you believe your coin contains a repunched mint mark or another unusual variety, compare it with trusted references before assigning a high value. Professional certification can be particularly useful for an exceptional-looking specimen because the grade provides an independent assessment of condition. Remember that a coin being described online as rare does not prove that it is rare, and a high asking price does not prove that a buyer actually paid that amount. Actual completed sales are much more useful when estimating market value. The 1956 Lincoln Wheat Penny is a great example of why collectors should look carefully at condition rather than simply judging a coin by its age. With a mintage of approximately 1.098 billion, the standard 1956 is not rare in ordinary circulated condition. However, high-grade red examples, recognized repunchment mark varieties, and exceptional certified specimens can be much more desirable. Current market references show ordinary uncirculated examples at relatively modest values, while high-grade pieces can reach hundreds of dollars and extraordinary certified examples have reached thousands. The documented $18,000 MS67 plus RD auction record represents an exceptional top-grade coin, not the typical value of a 1956 D. So if you have one, check the date, confirm the D mint mark, inspect the surfaces, study the color, and look carefully for recognized varieties. Most importantly, do not clean the coin. The greatest value difference can come from professional grade, originality, and preservation. If your 1956 D really is an exceptional uncirculated specimen, professional evaluation may be worthwhile. And remember, market prices change, online asking prices are not the same as completed auction sales, and no particular value is guaranteed. Final 5-coin series value disclaimer. The values mentioned in this video and throughout this 5-coin series are estimated market values for educational purposes only. Prices can change, and asking prices do not always represent completed sales. The values are not guaranteed selling prices. Actual value depends on date, mint mark, grade, color, surface condition, originality, errors or varieties, authentication, certification, eye appeal, and collector demand. Some exceptional coins may be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, while ordinary circulated examples may be worth much less. Always compare your coin with recent completed sales or seek professional evaluation before assuming it has a high value. Thanks for watching.